Okay, guys, so now that I've had some one-on-one time, I'm creating kind of a 3A to this creating an offer so good people can't say no. All right, so bear with me as we go through 3A. This is going to help you really think through what those variables are. So as we've already discussed, we're trying to come up with an irresistible offer, right? We want to speak directly and clearly to the most critical issue that your client is facing. I've got an exercise in this module, if you will, that's going to help you to kind of create the here's what I give, here's what I take away. So stay tuned for that because that's coming up in a few seconds. But what we're really trying to do is create an offer that inspires enthusiastic, motivated action, right? Something that's mouth-watering, something that's a no-brainer to say yes to. And I've already talked a little bit about how an offer must have perceived value. And the perceived value is not yours. And this is the challenge that a lot of us run into. Well, I think it's valuable. Great, that's awesome. You're not buying it. So I know that's a harsh way to put it, and I'm sorry for that. I've always promised that I will tell you the truth. And I will tell you the truth. It's not about what you perceive the value to be. This is about what does your potential client perceive the value to be. It's all wonderful that you recognize that this is an improvement. How do they recognize that it's an improvement that you're offering? So whether your outcome is tangible, meaning we can quantify it, we can add numbers to it, we can say more or less, or whether it's intangible. Intangibles are around things like self-development, things where we can't literally put a number attached to it, okay? So those are the intangibles. Those things about feelings, really intangible, aren't they? And hard to make a guarantee of. And so this is the thing. I want you to also be focusing not just on perceived value, but what can you guarantee? So I understand that if you are a mindset coach, right? That you can't guarantee an outcome because how on earth do you even measure it? So I'm going to help you to come up with things like scales, measuring on 1 to 10. How can I take you from a 1 to a 5, for example? So we can talk in terms of quantifying things by using scales, and then that way it helps people to understand the perceived value. But what I really wanted to make clear about this is that it's not about our perceived value, it's about our client's perceived value, okay? We've talked already as well about the 4 components of an irresistible offer, but now I want to break these down for you just a little bit more because value really can be calculated. If we were to put it into a formula, right, a mathematical formula, this is what it would look like. So thinking of order of operations, brackets are always first, right? So the brackets on the top and the bottom. We want to multiply dream outcome by belief or plausibility. How much do I believe it's actually possible to achieve that? And then we want to divide by the combination of time required and effort required. So really what it comes down to is this is a division problem. So if you understand math at all, then what we know is that the higher number, right, on the top and the lower number on the bottom is going to give us a big number as the outcome, right? That final equals. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I want you to imagine that instead of those words, dream, outcome, plausibility, time, and effort, imagine, we're not going to assign numbers to this, so please don't get panicked thinking I'm going to ask you to rate and do an actual math formula. This is really for the people who think this way, as I do, about, well, how do I know which part I want to increase and which part I want to decrease? For some, it will be natural, it'll be innate, those kinds of things. And for others, it's easier if we can look at it as a math formula. So I want you to, I'm going to get my pointer if I can. So this number here, 10, we're pretending that that's dream outcome. This one is believability. This one is how much time, and this one is how much effort. Now I want you to just pretend for a second that we've already gone through an exercise and we've said that the outcome is a 10, the belief is a 10, the time is a 5, and right? Because things always take time. You cannot possibly have bottom numbers that are zeros because in all honesty, it takes no effort and it takes no time. Well, duh, that is a definite no-brainer. But if we can get it closer to 0, what ends up happening is this number gets bigger. So I want you to do the math again. Pretend this is 100 times 100 divided by 5 times 5. So 100 times 100 is 1,000 divided by 25. Oh my gosh, this suddenly became a lot bigger, right? On the opposite side of that though, On the opposite side, if the dream outcome is only a 5, and if the believability is only a 5, and if it takes longer, and if it takes more effort, it only becomes a 0.25. So I'm just going to go back for a second. Oh, can I go back? I don't think I can go back, guys. But if you go back for a second in your mind, compare this, the 0.25 as a product, as an outcome, right? The result of the math formula compared to it being 4. What it means is that we want the bigger weight to be on the top numbers rather than the bottom numbers. So let's come back to the formula. We want the dream outcome to be as big as possible. We want belief or plausibility to be as big as possible, and we want the time required to be as low as possible and the effort required to be as low as possible. When we can get all 4 of these variables kind of lined up this way, that's when we can have an irresistible offer. Oh, what have I done here? An irresistible offer that's mouth-watering and impossible to resist, right? So we want the highest numbers at the top. So could you do a scale of 1 to 10, right? So this dream outcome. So imagine, let's take my example again. Well, I could have said that I would help people achieve $5,000 a month. But $10,000 seems to be the dream, doesn't it? Well, if I did $5,000, let's imagine this is this. $5,000 a month is my dream outcome, right? Compared to this, people who are at 0 may think, oh, that's still impossible. They may not have high belief. But a person who already has $2,500 that they're making consistently, suddenly this becomes more believable. And what I'm trying to help you to achieve is what must they already have in place before they get to you? Because then we can craft this offer knowing, well, sure, you know, I've only ever really helped people get to 5, but if I could help them to get to 10, people really seem to be excited about $10,000 a month. Absolutely. So one of the conditions I put in place for mine is I said people would need to be already making $2,500. So it would mean that you're going from 1 to 4, right? If you were to think of it that way, if each person was 2,500. So it's a lot easier to believe that you can go from 0 to 2,500 than it is to go from 0 to 10,000. That's this belief plausibility piece. Dreaminess, though, if I'm at 0, could I be dreaming about 10K months? I sure could. And do I believe I can do it? I sure do. Will I get it done in a month? Heck no. Not unless I want to increase my effort and be working 24 hours a day around the clock. So do you see how each and every one of these actually comes into play with one another? It's not enough to just have our dream outcome. That in itself does not make it mouth-watering. My clients believe that they can achieve it in the amount of time that I've stated directly influences how much effort they believe they need to put in. And it could be this effort piece that's the part. So to simply say, I help, entrepreneurs create $10,000 months from their business from one single offer in 30 days. If I say it like that, would you be looking at me going, holy cow, don't get me wrong, the 10,000 sounds fantastic. That's my dream outcome. But I'm not sure I can do it. I'm just not sure I can do it in 1 month because I don't think I have all of that time and energy to put into it. Compared to, I help my clients get that dream outcome, the $10,000 month. My client believes she can get it because now I've said it's 3 to 4 months. Now she also understands that this is a little bit more reasonable in terms of how much effort she needs to put in, how much learning needs to go into it. Because before you came into the program, I'm sure you recognized that there were things you were going to need to learn. So does your client, right? So looking at it using my example of the 10,000 versus 5,000 versus 2,500, I knew I wasn't going to help $10,000 people scale up to 20. That's not my jam. That's not what I want to do. I want to help struggling entrepreneurs who are new in business, have been in business less than 12 months. Oh, so again, this whole time thing, they've been in business less than 12 months. I know that typically it takes about a year to actually make your first $10,000 a month, unless you're really willing to put in all of that extra effort, unless you're willing to step outside your comfort zone beyond belief, unless you're willing to spend all of your time on social media trying to get it done or to pay ads. And so this is how I managed to come up with mine, and this is what I'm suggesting that you guys do for yours. Okay? There you go. So highest numbers at the top possible, lowest numbers at the bottom possible. And of course, let's remember they all interconnect with each other. My belief will be directly related to this whole time thing. So if you think of them going back and forth, right? Sure, I believe I can get $10,000 a month, but how much effort? And this is what this next page is going to show us. If you instead think about this one being more directly related to this one than this one, and this one being related to this one more than this one. The dream outcome, if you have done the work, if you are helping a prior version of yourself, if you have other clients, which I know you do, you have helped other, we know the outcome is possible. Maybe it's a matter of how much time and effort is required to increase that believability. Because again, our goal in creating our offer is to make the dreaminess of the outcome as absolutely desirable as possible. It could be $2,500. It could be, you stop yelling at your kids all the time. Maybe it's not just you stop yelling at your kids all the time. Maybe it's, now you're so engaged with your children. Your daughter comes home and can't wait to tell you about her day today. The dreaminess of the outcome could be bigger as long as we understand the effort that's required and we speak to it in our offer statement. Same with believability being related to time. Effort is also related to time. So really this could have been a big circle. Do I have a color? Ooh, I got color. Let's do color. So really, oh, it doesn't want to do that? We're learning, guys. We're learning. Let's try this. Ooh, no, it still doesn't want to. Is it drawing notes on there? Maybe it's drawing. There we go. So really, it's just this big cycle, right? So I want you to think about it as a never-ending cycle. It's kind of like an infinity. They all reach back to one another and directly impact each other. Okay? This is a big one. And if this isn't making sense for you, I would really appreciate hearing from you, because I think that this is important for us to understand, because there will come a point, and remember, my goal as a coach for you, as a mentor for you, is to help you to become independent of me. I don't want you to be relying on me forever to help you make these decisions. I want to teach you how to make the decisions so you feel like, hey, I got this and I can make these decisions in the future. So this is why I spend all of this time trying to help you to understand these things. So if this doesn't make sense, I really appreciate when you reach out to me and let me know and we have deeper discussion, because then that means I get to help my clients even more deeply. I can help them even better next time, right? Okay, let's talk about the dream outcome. All right, dream outcome. We've already talked about this ad nauseum, I'm sure. The big so what though? Know their problems. We talked about this in the last module. Know your client's problems. This is the whole point of doing your ideal client exercise, right? It's to understand their problems. So, we already discussed how in my case, my clients needed or wanted more income. And they really, more than anything, they wanted it to be consistent. And they wanted to stop the feeling of stress and anxiety that comes from not being able to meet financial obligations. Number two, they weren't totally clear on how to build a business. They might have had businesses before, they may not have, most likely not, or when they did, it was kind of like a side gig rather than being a full-on business that they were trying to earn a living from. Or if they did in the past, it may have been that they had started a business and it succeeded only by fluke. They couldn't repeat it. My whole point that I want to help them with is to increase their understanding of their own strategy so that they can clearly continue, not converting, letting comparitis, limiting beliefs. We talked about these ones. All right, let's look at somebody else. What about if your client has chronic pain? You got to know their problems. Again, feeling daily stress, frustration, and anxiety, but in this case, due to an inability to live a full life. Maybe they don't want to upset their doctor by listening to somebody else about how to manage it. Maybe they're not able to work at all. So these are the problems, and you will speak to those very, very differently than somebody who is not earning enough money from their business, right? So know their problems, and knowing their problems can help you to even, oops, I think I keep forgetting I press forward, and we have to wait until the new one comes along when I'm recording the slides like this. Okay, so we also talked about what are the objections that you might encounter, right? And these ones are related to those problems. Sometimes it's a mindset problem. Sometimes it's a belief problem. Sometimes it's a finance problem. Sometimes it's an I need support problem. Sometimes it's a self-confidence problem. Really, it's important to understand what the objections might be, because then we might be able to go back to our formula, right? If it's about cost, we might be able to affect plausibility. We might be able to affect how much effort is required. Oh, it's $5,000. I'll never be able to afford $5,000. Oh, okay. So how might I make this less effort by reducing the price? If I reduce the price in the sense of being able to make it less effort, you don't have to work as hard to come up with the money, I will also need to change other variables in my offer, and that's okay. So maybe now I take one of the micro problems of the big problem, and maybe that's what I'm doing in terms of my offer. I want to reach out to people who can afford $500 instead of people who can afford $5,000. A person who's looking for a $5,000 result for a $500 price tag is not my client. So if instead I take one element of the big, huge dream outcome, what if you are a person that helps somebody find their soul purpose? Maybe the first element of that is I help, maybe you're just helping them to discover, create, and hold their boundaries. So just because the whole big thing you can do is a big thing and it takes a long time and it's worth a lot of money, right? Let's break it down into smaller ones. Maybe we bring it down into smaller micro problems that make it then more affordable for a person as well. I want you to be thinking about, how do I retain that client in my business? What future programs, what future offers might I be able to offer them? If we go this route where we take the big, huge dream outcome, making it more affordable by breaking it down into micro problems, one big dream outcome in a program that's 3 to 4 months, that takes, a reasonable amount, 2 to 3 hours of effort each day in terms of building your business. Now imagine we break that down into something that takes 5 to 10 minutes a day. It lasts 30 days. And we're really only dealing with people pleasing as the specific challenge. And of course, people pleasing is all about boundaries, right? We can play with those variables to make a product, an offer, affordable. So I don't want you to be saying, oh, well, the affordability thing is the biggest thing. We can adjust the other variables to make it more affordable. The thing I don't want you doing is giving yourself away for free. That's what I don't want you doing. All right. So now we come to the give something they need or want, or take something they don't need or want, because really that's what your offer needs to do. You have to solve a problem in their offer, and there are ways to solve problems by, increasing things and decreasing things. Saving time is a way to solve a problem by reducing. Increasing money is a way to solve a problem by increasing, right? So as you look at all of these, I want you to think, it's my goal, it's my job to help them achieve a goal or alleviate a pain. It's that simple. Every successful offer does one of those two things. Whether you're adding 40 yards to their golf drive, learning how to basket weave, which is increasing their skills, or alleviating a pain, whether it's physical or emotional, it doesn't matter. But imagine you're a grief counselor and you're helping them get over bereavement so that they can move on with their life. Imagine you are helping somebody to have greater self-confidence. What you're reducing then, in that case, what you're taking away is you're taking away self-doubt. So we can look at almost every problem and every benefit from both sides. This exercise that I'm about to ask you to do, that's exactly what you will be doing, looking at how you help from both sides, because every time you give something, you've taken something away. When you give money, you've taken away stress related to debt, right? So this exercise that I'm asking you to participate in now, and this is for you, this is not for me, it's for you. You do not ever need to share your exercises with me unless you want my help and my input to help you to understand a little bit better. But these are exercises for you to use to help you have a deeper understanding of how you serve so that you can be better at communicating it, okay? So I have on the following page, I have an outline of an exercise. I have a PDF that I've provided in the handout section. The alternative is, if you like to use Microsoft Whiteboard, I actually created this in a whiteboard, so you can certainly use that as well. But your exercise here is to decide which increases and which decreases are the most important to your client. Because remember, we said at the beginning, a mouth-watering offer, an irresistible offer, an offer people can't say no to, has to be speaking to the literally most critical thing. Oh, it's great. I used the example one time about a gentleman who wanted to be able, the whole presentation was done around being able to hear better in church, and frankly, he couldn't have cared less if he could hear better at church. So that's all fine and dandy and all great that he could hear better, which is absolutely true, but he doesn't care. We need to understand which part of the benefits that you offer are the most important to your client. Because one of the things I know, especially if you deal with women, we often don't think we're worth it and resist spending money on ourselves. So we really, really need to understand what is the most important thing that we solve, the most important benefit, and that's what this exercise is for. Okay. So imagine you've got a busy working mom, right? And that's who your ideal client is. It's a busy working mom. Imagine that you help them to curate a collection of recipes to help improve meal planning. All right, that's what you do. And as you're thinking it through, you're thinking about, so what is my ideal client, right? What is she able to do for her family? What is she not able to do for her family? These are two questions that I would hope that you'd be asking yourself. She's a busy working mom. She needs some help. She's getting frustrated and overwhelmed. A lot of it is related to mealtime, as it's the whole mealtime mentor thing. So what is she able to do and what is she not able to do? Okay, so these are the first two questions. What can she do? What can't she do for her family? So if this is the whole thing for your ideal client and you're trying to help her create recipes, trying to reduce tension, trying to increase efficiency, trying to increase skill set, trying to make her feel like a better mom, right? Great. Which one matters to her more? What is she able to do for her family? Can she cook meals or does she do a lot of takeout? What is she not able to do for her family? She's got, dietary restrictions and she finds herself getting completely lost and overwhelmed by them. So she just, buys a lot of prepackaged food. What does she want to do for her family? Imagine in this case, what she wants to do for her family is that she wants to create healthy, nutritious meals that they will all enjoy. What has she already tried to solve the problem? Well, maybe she's already tried something like a HelloFresh or one of those meal subscriptions. So if you think about those four questions, then you can then say, so what matters the most to her? So this is what the give and take exercises. What is she able to do? What isn't she able to do? What does she want to do? And what has she tried, right? And as we think about your offer specifically, and I've put in, of course, two things that are benefits of mine. What am I giving and what am I taking? I'm giving more money each month. What am I taking? I'm reducing. I'm taking away the amount of time. You work less time as a result of the systems, processes, and strategy and clarity that I help you get. So as I think through what am I giving and what am I taking away can be very positive. So don't be thinking, oh, it's got to be all negative, negative. What is her pain? And this is the point of having your ideal client exercise done, right? So in this exercise, I really do want you to just think of all of the benefits. What are all the things that, what are all the ways that my client is going to have a better life, have a better job, have a better business? But really, it's about her, isn't it? How will she be better? How will he be better if your client is male? How will your client be better? And anything they gain confidence, they gain clarity, they gain adventure, they gain love, contentment, fulfillment. What do they gain? Versus what do they give up? What pain will we help to remove, reduce, or alleviate for them? Time management's a big one. Stress and anxiety is another one, right? Like, what are the things that you're going to, oh, they'll have less stress, they'll have less, and every time you've got one on one side, there will be a way to speak to it on the other side. This is all about increasing the flexibility of your mind to be able to see every problem as a positive and a negative in terms of the benefit that you offer. Because for some people, they need to not think about getting time back in their day. They need to think about it from the perspective of working less. So this is why this exercise is important and helpful. It helps you to think that through so that you can speak in a much clearer way for your client and speak to them in the way that they like to receive information. That is naturally going to make you more successful with your clients, okay? All right. Plausibility. How much do I believe? And we've talked about this one already, but this is an area that we can really start to recognize how unique every person that comes to us in our program is going to be. We can see that there's going to be potentially limiting beliefs that we need to overcome before they're going to reach our destination. So you have to ask yourself, is helping them remove those speed bumps, right? So this one here, let's talk about, low belief. Oh, there we go, low belief, this one right here. Going from 0 to 10K months in 30 days, that would be low belief, wouldn't it? Versus sign your first client in 60 days. That's a pretty high belief. Just in terms of, imagine you're at 0K. Imagine you've never signed a paying client before. You would be more likely to have high belief in this part here, this 60 days versus this 30 days, especially to be saying you're going to get up to the $10,000, right? So this is the plausibility. If you were to measure against your own litmus of believability, where does it sit? The other thing that I would suggest is that it's this plausibility piece that for me makes market research so vital. This one and what is the most critical thing? So it's all fine and dandy that, 10 women experience 70% of these things, but we want 100% of the people who are your clients to be experiencing one most critical element. So sure, maybe they all feel frustrated and yell at their kids. Or sorry, I don't mean all of them. Maybe 70% get frustrated and yell at their kids, but what about the other 3? So if your program is designed to do a specific thing, we want to hit on the thing that it delivers every time, that it solves every time. And in my case, it solves the problem of consistent income. In your case, it could be about consistently losing 1 to 2 pounds per week and keeping it off, right? So maybe the most important part is not about the weight loss itself, but it's about keeping it off. So this is why going through this exercise about benefits that we just talked about, the give and take, is so important. Now, excuse me, we're going to move on here. What I really wanted to mention though, guys, believability and plausibility, this is not about whether or not you've helped other people do it, okay? So great, you did help somebody go to $10,000 months in 30 days. Okay, so you did take somebody who literally was brand new and they signed their first client in the first 2 weeks. That is not the point. The point is not about whether or not you've actually done this before. It's what does your audience believe is possible for them specifically. And you've got to bear in mind that once again, this kind of ties into this notion that everybody that comes into this will be their own unique character, right? They may or may not already have done some of the mindset work. And this is why plausibility helps us to identify, oh, well, if they were at 0, of course they wouldn't believe it. But if they already had $5,000 months, oh my gosh, they'd be like, of course I can do this. This is just doubling what I've got now. Versus quadrupling, quintupling, or sextupling. I'm not, right? Like 10 timesing, 5 timesing, 100 timesing. Your belief is not what's relevant, it's theirs. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. And then of course we've got this impact of time, right? I want you to think, I'm not talking about this whole notion of trading time for money. When you're looking at the value of your offer, I don't want you to look at it and say, well, I spend 44 hours with people, therefore at my hourly rate of $200 each, each hour, then that means that $8,800 is what my course is worth. No, not at all. That's not what I'm suggesting. It's not about trading time for money. How valuable is the outcome to people? So if you were to tell people that you're going to triple their profit, if they have a profit of $5 right now, it's one thing. If they have a current profit of $1 million, though, very, very different value. And so the time that it's going to take in 30 days on a $5 profit, in 30 days, it's highly unlikely you're going to get to $1 million profit. But $1 million profit company could potentially get to $2 million in profit. Okay. So this time element on the value, it is just as much related to starting point. And this is why I keep asking you guys to decide what's the starting point. I think I now have talked about the whole with just about all of you about being in the whole and empathy and all of those kinds of things. And I'm not suggesting that you necessarily need to climb down into that hole and speak to those things, but you do need to know what's going on in the hole. That's all I'm suggesting. You don't need to speak to the hole. You don't need to push those pain points, but you need to understand what the pain is to ensure that you're solving the pain, that it's the most critical of the pain, that it's, if somebody's sitting all cramped up tight in a crowded little space, is the fact that something is jabbing into them the problem, or is it the fact that they're claustrophobic and they're having panic attacks and they think they're going to die? What is the bigger pain for them? That's what we're really trying to understand. Okay? All right. So as we're looking at the value of time, the impact of time on our value of our offer, I want you to think about how long does it really take to achieve the outcome you offer, and then if you made the value or the dream outcome bigger or smaller, what effect will that have on the time? So just imagine that, you've got the $10,000 months that you want to achieve. Let's go back to that example. $10,000 months in 3 months or $10,000 months in 30 days? Well, if I want to do it in 30 days, because I think that what actually matters to my client more is how much time this is going to take, I'm going to say that in 30 days, I can get you to 5,000 rather than 10,000. So that directly affects the value. It also directly affects the believability, right? It helps to chunk things out. But now I'm going into my offer too much. Don't worry about my offer. Let's worry about yours. So now let's look at the very final piece of the value pie, okay? This last piece is about effort. Effort is measured in a number of ways, and a lot of times people equate effort with time. It could be about skill. It could be about knowledge that you have or need to acquire, right? So when you're thinking about effort, I don't want you to only be thinking about time. I want you to also be considering things like, is it done for you? So if you think about a person who does social media creation, that's a person who is a done for you, right? They produce the product and sell it for you. That has a lot higher value than me teaching you how to do it. And it's because you can get it done so much more quickly. So effort is how much effort do I personally need to put into this to get that result? Done for you, very little effort. Do it yourself, very, very big effort. if we're looking at the same thing. And let's talk about it as a social media management idea for the moment so that we understand. When you hire somebody for social media management, typically they are an independent person who's going off and doing those things for you based on some guidelines that you've provided them, rather than somebody who creates, like a graphic designer, for example, who creates packages like Canva packs or pre-made templates or those kinds of things that you still need to figure out how to use, when to use. A social media manager is figuring out when and how to create the posts, when and how to engage. A person who's providing you with a Canva template pack is providing you with the artwork and not providing you with the post, not providing you with the engagement, not providing you with the knowledge to know when and how. And so it is because the person who is selling the total package of done for you, because they're utilizing their own knowledge and making sure that they're providing a maximum outcome for you based on having that expertise. That's why a done for you certainly has much more value in a client's mind. Oh, I don't have to put any time or effort into it? Whew, wonderful. Thank you so much. Done for you is as close to zero as we're going to get now. I will say that even done for you, there's typically things that are required of your client or of you in order to be able to implement those things. But I think you get my point. Rather than a do-it-yourself. A do-it-yourself will typically take 2 to 3 times longer simply because you do need to acquire the skills that a person who could have done it for you already has. So there's a much steeper learning curve in a DIY. The middle of the road, though, and this is where I am, I do with you. So do it yourself is the self-paced videos in this course. That's the do it yourself piece. The do it with you piece is when we do have our strategic sessions one-to-one at the 3 points throughout your program. Another way that I'm doing it with you is the support I offer through Voxer. Okay. Another way that I do it with you is to create supplemental training like this one. Right? So there's an element of it that is done with you. So I look at my program as a done with you, which in my mind gives it a much higher value than if I had simply been selling this program just as pre-recorded videos. I would love to know and believe that you all find the videos to be fantastic and helpful and wonderful. But what amount of extra value do I bring to the table when I then support you outside of the videos? So if you can think of it this way in terms of effort, the effort sure can be related to time, but more than anything, it's about how much brain power do you have to use? How much of your physicalness do you need to use to make that outcome a reality? That's where the effort comes in. And the more we can reduce the person's amount of effort, the more the easier we can make it for somebody to achieve the outcome. That's effort. How easy is it to get there? For you, the client, how easy is it to get there? Not how much do you believe you can do it, but how much effort, how much input, okay? I would love to talk more about this topic. It's actually one of my favorite topics, but I don't want to overwhelm you. For anybody who would like to have a deeper discussion about this, you have 2 options. 1, reach out to me in the group Voxer. Everybody will benefit from hearing your questions. So that's number 1. Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, so I'm always delighted to talk about any of the topics in any of the modules. I do my best to reduce the amount of information I'm giving you. I could go into so much more detail on many of these things, but I don't want to be overwhelming. However, if you are one of those people that really wants to have the deeper discussion, by all means, reach out to me. I love that. I will let you know that you have options. So option number 1 is to continue to use the group Voxer chat. Option number 2, you could send me a DM on Facebook, although I will tell you I'll respond to the Voxer group chat much more quickly. If you're not in the Voxer group chat, I think I put instructions in the mastermind, or I don't call it a mastermind. I think I put instructions in our closed private group for our mentorship group. Instructions in there. My Voxer name is literally Danielle Wilson Mentor. No spaces, no underlines, no capitals, no nothing, no nonsense. And my picture of me with the sparkly background, kind of doing this same profile picture as I have on Facebook. I'm hoping that that makes it easy to find me. Okay, so you have the choice of reaching out to me in Voxer and putting a question in there. You have the option of reaching out to me in Facebook, although I will mention that it will likely, or it could have a tendency to get lost. You have the option of waiting until we have our 1 month follow-up one-to-one, where we're going to check and see where you are. You could also book an additional one-to-one time if that's something that's in your budget right now. Okay. Booking a one-to-one time, anybody that's in the mentorship program does get a slight discount. You actually only pay $97 for the session rather than $147. And that gets you an hour. I'm sure that you know, given that we've all had our one-to-one, I rarely stick to the full hour. I rarely cut us off. If I cut us off, it's only because I literally have somewhere else to go. But it's important to me that we get you through this initial part where we are deciding, you know, who is my ideal client and what is my offer. These are so much more critical than anything else we're going to do. Thinking this through, thinking this through and being really solid in your mind means that no matter who comes at you, no matter where you are in the world, you're like, woo, I got this. You're standing in the grocery store lineup and you run into somebody, you know, from high school that you haven't seen in forever. And they're like, oh, what are you up to these days? And you can just quickly talk about it. I've spoken with each and every one of you, and you've each had a moment where your passion for what you do, I've said, there it is. If we could snip and play that for you, you've all got it in you. Your passion is palpable. And I hope that mine is also for you, that you recognize that my passion is business and that my passion is to help you to feel better, more confident, more natural, and more secure in your business. So at any time that you need support, just reach out to me. If it's not the quote unquote appropriate way, we'll figure it out and we'll redirect for next time. So never be concerned that anything you say is going to be in any way, shape, or form an interference, an intrusion, a bother. I am a person that blurs my boundaries all the time. And when it's to be in service to my clients, that's where I am the worst for it. However, it's because I play this game with myself where I say, there's the boundary, when really the boundary is actually just a little bit more over there, so that I know it gives me the ability to have that flexibility that matters to me, because there's an empowerment for me when I have control over saying, I'm going to give them more. Okay. So I don't want you to be worrying about what my boundaries are. Those are mine to worry about. And I promise you, I have taken good care of them. And I just want you to always feel that I'm available for you, that I'm here to support you, that I have your best interests at heart, and that I will do whatever it takes to help you be successful. All right, guys, that's it for the offer. Anything beyond this, I don't think I'm going to be creating a training video for it. Let's talk about it in Voxer. Okay. And I think that everybody will benefit from this discussion. This is a huge, huge topic. And I know for certain that you've received information out there in freebie for all. I know you've received information. Perhaps you've worked with another coach that has a different philosophy on it. I'm not here to negate that philosophy. I'm here to extend, expand, and get you thinking a little bit deeper into it, because my process in general is a very emotional process. I like to help people to connect back into their emotion, so that we can understand motivation, because emotion is actually at the root of so many of our things. If you consider this, everything that happens in the world, everything that happens in the universe, every occurrence is neutral. It's neither positive nor negative. And it doesn't matter if you're, oh, death is negative, but is it? Because if you know, depending on your spirituality, depending on your belief system, depending on your cultural beliefs, there are citizens in the world, there are tribes in, you know, more remote places that actually celebrate death. and they look at it as the journey into the next realm. It's, oh my gosh, look at that. It's an ascension, if you will. So it's like, oh, you finally got to leave behind this physical realm and now you're going to this place. And it's like, woo, it's a big celebration. And there's no sadness, no tears. So going back to the original statement, if you could imagine that everything that happens in the world is neutral, there is neither positive nor negative attached to it, because the universe seeks to create balance. And whether your belief system is centered around God, or whether it's centered around this, more esoteric idea, this more new age area, it's the same thing. Balance is what we're looking to achieve, and our bodies are trying to do the same thing. And if you're a holistic practitioner, you understand the term homeostasis. That's what's trying to be achieved. And therefore, there's no positive, no negative. It's only the emotion that we attach to things that makes it positive or negative. So what I want to try to help you to do is try to see things from a more neutral perspective, so you can anticipate the emotional elements that are going to come at you from potential clients, whether in favor or against, so that you can be impartial to them and kind of step outside and not take things personally, but also to be prepared so that when somebody does come at you with, let's say, a cost objection, or with how can you make that kind of a claim? If somebody says that to you, you don't have an emotional response, which actually puts you it shuts you down when you have an emotional response. If instead you can observe an emotional response kind of at a slight distance from it, isn't that interesting that I'm experiencing that? But have that more neutral approach to it, and then be able to respond to the person rather than to react. That's really what my goal is, by having you kind of zoom out like this and look at things from every possible angle. All right. I've probably talked too much now, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And of course, I'll see you in the next video. Won't I? All right, guys. Bye now.